In the dusty archives of an old New York City hotel, amongst documents long forgotten, an extraordinary discovery emerged from the shadows of history. A manuscript dated December 1942, mere weeks before Nikola Tesla's death, contains the transcriptions of a conversation that should never have been preserved. The yellowed pages, penned in the inventor's shaky but still precise handwriting, reveal intimate confessions about experiences that defied everything orthodox science dared to accept. The document, discovered by chance during renovations at the Grand Majestic Hotel, was sealed in a red wax-sealed envelope where Tesla had written in Gothic script, "To be opened only when humanity is ready for the truth about the invisible worlds." For decades, scientific and religious authorities conspired to keep these revelations from the public, fearing that the words of the man who mastered the mysteries of electricity could shake the foundations of reality as we know it. Tesla, at 85, was no longer the young inventor who had revolutionized the world with his discoveries about alternating current. In his final years, secluded in his room on the 33rd floor, he had become something far more unsettling to those who observed him. A visionary who spoke to the dead and received messages from dimensions beyond the physical veil. The words transcribed in that manuscript reveal a man who had penetrated the darkest secrets of existence, uncovering truths that terrified even his brilliant mind. That frigid December afternoon, Tesla had summoned his closest assistant, a young engineer named Arthur Miller, for what he described as his final confession. The inventor knew his days were numbered, and he carried with him experiences he couldn't take to the grave. With his voice still firm despite his advanced age, Tesla began to recount events he had kept in absolute secrecy for over 3 decades. The narrative began with his experiments at his Colorado Springs laboratory in 1899, when Tesla built an experimental station capable of transmitting electrical energy wirelessly. It was there, on the solitary nights in Colorado, that the inventor began to pick up signals that did not originate from any known terrestrial source. Initially, Tesla believed he was intercepting communications from other planets, a theory he held for years. But as his research progressed and his sensitivity to electrical phenomena deepened, a far more disturbing truth began to reveal itself. The signals were not coming from outer space, but from dimensions parallel to our physical reality. Tesla discovered that electricity was not merely a force of nature, but a bridge between worlds, a conducting wire connecting the material plane to realms where souls continued their journey after bodily death. His coils and generators, when tuned to specific frequencies, functioned as portals of communication with these invisible spheres. This is how Tesla began to hear the voices of the dead. At first, they were distant whispers, like static on a poorly tuned radio. Gradually, the voices became clearer, more distinct, and the inventor realized he was receiving messages from souls that had departed this world. Among these voices, some carried messages of peace and spiritual evolution, describing luminous planes where consciousness continued to grow and learn. But other voices carried a blood-curdling despair. They were the souls trapped in the lower planes of the afterlife. Tesla discovered that death was neither the end nor the relief that many imagined. Human consciousness, after leaving the physical body, was directed to different levels of existence based on the spiritual state achieved during earthly life. Those who had cultivated love, compassion, and wisdom ascended to spheres of light and infinite knowledge. But those whose lives were dominated by hatred, greed, cruelty, or despair were drawn to shadowy planes where their own negative mental creations materialized as oppressive realities. These revelations profoundly transformed Tesla's worldview. The man who had dedicated his life to illuminating the world with electricity discovered that there were regions of absolute darkness where tormented souls wandered in perpetual suffering. It wasn't a hell created by a punitive god, but a self-imposed state of being, where accumulated negative thoughts and emotions crystallized into experiences of inescapable torment. Through his experiments with electromagnetic waves, Tesla developed the ability to tune in to different spiritual frequencies and make direct contact with these imprisoned souls. The conversations he had with these disincarnate beings revealed terrifying details about the nature of afterlife suffering. Some souls were trapped in mental labyrinths created by their own earthly obsessions, eternally reliving moments of rage, fear, or unfulfilled desire. Others were sucked into vortices of negative energy, where they were tormented by monstrous thought forms born from their own evil deeds. One of the most disturbing communications Tesla received came from a soul who identified itself as a former colleague, a rival inventor who had died consumed by envy and resentment. This entity described its afterlife state as a self-made hell, where it was forced to eternally relive the moment of its greatest betrayal, trapped in a cycle of guilt and self-punishment that seemed endless. These experiences led Tesla to a revolutionary understanding of the nature of human existence. He realized that every thought, every emotion, every action during physical life created energetic patterns that determined the soul's destiny after death. The electricity flowing through the human body was not merely a biological phenomenon, but the very substance of consciousness, capable of shaping itself according to the intentions and moral choices of each individual. Nikola Tesla spent years developing technologies to assist these trapped souls, creating devices that generated specific frequencies capable of dissolving the energetic barriers keeping them imprisoned in states of suffering. Some of his experiments achieved partial success, allowing certain souls to free themselves from their torment and ascend to higher planes of existence. But the inventor soon discovered that his interference in the spiritual realms was attracting the attention of far more powerful and malevolent forces. Shadowy entities, feeding on the suffering of the trapped souls, began to manifest their presence in Tesla's laboratory. These presences weren't simply lost human souls, but beings of purely malevolent nature inhabiting the lower regions of spiritual existence.
They saw Tesla's experiments as a threat to their dominion over the tormented souls and began sabotaging his equipment and terrorizing the inventor with horrific visions. It was during one of these demonic manifestations that Tesla had his most traumatic experience with the world of the dead. One night, while attempting to communicate with a recently deceased soul, his laboratory was invaded by a presence of pure evil that materialized as a dense, suffocating shadow. The entity showed Tesla visions of infernal planes, where the most lost souls were subjected to unimaginable tortures, not by external demons, but by their own distorted mental creations fueled by negativity accumulated over generations of existence. Tesla saw souls being ripped apart and reassembled eternally in cycles of infinite pain, others devoured by creatures born from their own fears and obsessions, and some completely dissolving into absolute darkness, losing all individuality and consciousness. The most terrifying vision was discovering that some of these tortured souls were people he had known in life, scientists who had used their knowledge to inflict suffering, inventors who had created weapons of destruction, and even family members who had died carrying hatred and resentment in their hearts. These revelations profoundly shook Tesla's faith in the fundamental goodness of the universe. The man who had dedicated his life to bringing light and progress to humanity confronted the possibility that his own inventions could contribute to the afterlife suffering of those who used them for malevolent purposes. Electricity, which he considered a divine force capable of elevating humanity, could also be a trap that imprisoned souls in cycles of eternal torment. For months, Tesla battled the depression and despair caused by these discoveries. He halted his experiments with spiritual communication and tried to return to conventional scientific work, but the voices of the dead continued to haunt him. Even when not actively trying to make contact, his mind, attuned to spiritual frequencies, continued receiving messages from suffering souls, pleading for help he didn't know how to offer. For those following these extraordinary revelations about the deepest mysteries of existence, know that there is much more to be discovered about the hidden truths that great minds like Tesla unearthed. These lost confessions represent only the beginning of a journey of knowledge that few have dared to undertake. It was during this period of personal torment that Tesla began receiving visits from a presence very different from the shadowy entities that had terrorized him. A soft light began to manifest in his laboratory, bringing with it a feeling of peace and infinite wisdom. Gradually, Tesla realized he was being contacted by an evolved soul, a being that had transcended the cycles of suffering and achieved higher states of spiritual consciousness. This luminous entity, identifying itself only as a guardian of the intermediary worlds, revealed to Tesla even deeper truths about the nature of the afterlife. The suffering of the imprisoned souls wasn't eternal, the being explained, but part of a necessary process of purification and learning. Even in the darkest planes of spiritual existence, there were possibilities of redemption and evolution, though the path was long and arduous. The Guardian showed Tesla that his ability to communicate with the dead wasn't accidental, but part of a larger spiritual mission. Some incarnate souls were chosen to serve as bridges between worlds, helping both the living and the dead understand the laws governing multidimensional existence. Tesla had been chosen not only to revolutionize human understanding of electricity, but also to explore the connections between physical energy and spiritual consciousness. Under the guidance of this luminous entity, Tesla developed a more complete understanding of the mechanisms governing the afterlife destiny of human souls. He discovered that physical death was only a transition between different states of consciousness, and that the hell experienced by some souls was temporary, serving as a purification process that would eventually allow their evolution to higher planes of existence. Tesla learned that the tortured souls weren't being punished by an external judgment, but were experiencing the natural consequences of their own choices during physical life. Every act of cruelty, every thought of hate, every moment of despair created energetic patterns that manifested as experiential realities after death. But just as these negative energies could create suffering, they could also be transmuted through genuine repentance and a sincere desire for spiritual evolution. The Guardian taught Tesla advanced techniques of spiritual communication that allowed him not only to contact souls on different planes of existence, but also to assist them in their processes of liberation. Tesla discovered that certain electromagnetic frequencies could accelerate the dissolution of the negative energetic patterns that kept souls trapped in states of suffering, offering them the opportunity to ascend to higher levels of consciousness. In the following years, Tesla secretly worked on developing advanced spiritual technologies, creating devices capable of harmonizing the frequencies of human consciousness with the vibrations of the higher planes of existence. His most revolutionary inventions from this period were never revealed to the public, remaining hidden in secret laboratories or destroyed by Tesla himself when he realized that humanity wasn't yet ready to handle such powers. One of Tesla's most significant discoveries during this period was the understanding that human consciousness continues to evolve even after multiple physical deaths. Souls undergo cycles of incarnation and discarnation, each life offering opportunities to learn specific lessons and dissolve negative karmic patterns. Those who die carrying large amounts of negative energy may spend extensive periods in the lower planes of spiritual existence, but will eventually have the opportunity to reincarnate and try again on the path of evolution. Tesla also discovered that evolved souls frequently choose to incarnate at specific moments in human history to help raise the collective consciousness of the species. Many of humanity's great inventors, artists, philosophers, and spiritual leaders were ancient souls who had chosen to return to Earth to share advanced knowledge and inspire humanity's spiritual progress. This understanding completely transformed Tesla's perspective on his own role in human history. He realized that his inventions were not simply products of scientific genius, but spiritual tools intended to prepare humanity for a new era of conscious evolution.
The electricity he had harnessed was merely a physical manifestation of far subtler spiritual forces that connected all conscious beings in an infinite network of energy and information. In his final years, Tesla spent most of his time in deep meditation, communicating directly with advanced spiritual entities who guided him on the next steps of human evolution. He received visions of humanity's future, seeing how his scientific discoveries would eventually lead to the development of technologies capable of scientifically proving the existence of the soul and the afterlife. Tesla predicted that in the future, scientists would develop instruments capable of detecting and measuring the frequencies of human consciousness, definitively proving that the mind is not produced by the brain, but exists as an independent energy that can survive physical death. He envisioned hospitals where doctors would use technologies based on his principles to heal not only physical illnesses, but also spiritual traumas that souls carried from past lives. One of the most impressive visions Tesla received was of a future era where communication with the deceased would be as common as a phone call. Humanity would develop a complete understanding of the different planes of spiritual existence and create technologies to assist souls trapped in states of suffering to find liberation and evolution. Death would cease to be seen as an end, but as a simple transition between different phases of the conscious journey. Tesla also saw that his discoveries about the electrical nature of consciousness would lead to the development of methods to accelerate human spiritual evolution. Advanced meditation techniques combined with electromagnetic resonance technologies would allow individuals to expand their consciousness beyond physical limitations, directly experiencing the higher planes of existence while still incarnate. But perhaps the most important vision Tesla received was about the role of love as the fundamental force governing all existence. He discovered that love was not simply a human emotion, but the very energy that holds the universe together, the force that allows souls to evolve and transcend cycles of suffering. Souls who learned to love unconditionally found automatic liberation from all lower planes of existence, ascending directly to the highest levels of cosmic consciousness. This final understanding transformed Tesla from an inventor focused on technological mastery into a mystic deeply attuned to fundamental spiritual truths. He realized that all his scientific discoveries had been steps toward this greater revelation, that consciousness, energy, and love are different aspects of the same fundamental reality that permeates the entire universe. In the last days of his life, Tesla experienced states of expanded consciousness that allowed him to directly glimpse the deepest mysteries of existence. He saw how each individual soul is a unique facet of an infinite cosmic consciousness, how each physical life is a precious opportunity for spiritual growth, and how even the most intense suffering serves higher evolutionary purposes that transcend limited human understanding. Tesla understood that the tormented souls in the lower planes of postmortem existence were not victims of a cruel system, but students in an infinitely compassionate cosmic school, where every experience, however painful, offered opportunities for growth and transformation. What seemed like eternal torture was in fact an accelerated purification process that would eventually liberate these souls to experiences of unimaginable ecstasy and wisdom. The last entry in Tesla's manuscript contains his final reflections on the nature of death and the continuity of consciousness. He wrote that physical death is like waking from a dream, a transition that reveals the true multidimensional nature of reality.
Souls departing this world discover that physical life was only a small facet of an infinitely vaster and richer existence. Tesla concluded his confessions with a message of hope for humanity. He predicted that a time would come when all the secrets about life, death, and the spiritual nature of existence would be openly revealed, freeing humanity from the fear of death and allowing each individual to consciously assume their role in infinite cosmic evolution. The manuscript ends with Tesla describing his own preparation for death as an exciting adventure, an opportunity to finally directly explore the dimensions he had only glimpsed through his scientific experiments. He did not fear the lower planes of postmortem existence, for he knew he had dedicated his life to the service of humanity and to the development of technologies that would eventually help raise human consciousness. Tesla passed away in January 1943, taking with him secrets that would completely reshape our understanding of reality if fully revealed. But his final words, preserved in that forgotten manuscript, offered glimpses of truths that transcend physical death. That consciousness is eternal, that love is the fundamental force of the universe, and that every soul, no matter how lost it may seem, carries within it the potential for liberation and absolute transcendence. Tesla's secret legacy doesn't reside only in his technological inventions, but in his courageous exploration of the deepest mysteries of human existence. He left us not only tools to master physical energy, but also glimpses into the spiritual energies that govern the destiny of all souls. His final confessions remind us that death is merely the beginning of an infinite journey of discovery, where even the darkest experiences serve the greater purpose of awakening consciousness to its true divine and eternal nature.